Hello everyone. Today we're going to be doing the updating my gauges. When I first got the car, the oil pressure gauge didn't work, so I bought a new one. And on the 71s, the early C3s, all the way up through 73, I think, or 74, the oil pressure gauge actually has a tube that runs from the engine to the gauge. And oil flows through it, puts pressure in the gauge, and that's what makes the gauge work. The later model C3s had electronic oil pressure gauge, and I got the bright idea. I wanted to update mine to the electronic one so I didn't have that tube coming into the interior of the car in case it would crack or leak or something, have oil over inside the car. That's the way they did them. They worked fine. They last forever and everything. But while I had everything apart, I thought I wanted to update a little bit. Well, I ordered this electronic gauge. This is out for a 75 Corvette. And you can probably see it better on my new speedometer. You can see how the numbers and the striping on the oil pressure gauge are white, where on my car, they kind of have a greenish tint to them. So to put this gauge in my car, I would have had to drill these rivets out, get the needle off without breaking it, do the same thing to my other gauge, and then mount it back onto this gauge, re-rivet it somehow, or epoxy it on or something so it's all back together, and then put it in. Well, I thought, no big deal, I can do that, no big deal. But then after I got the gauge in, I was looking here, and this is all solid steel, so I'd have to come in here and drill holes and make up some kind of insulating block, either like rubber grommets or something, so when these came up through there, it wouldn't ground out on this, because the metal casing on these gauges are actually the ground. There's no ground wire coming to the gauges. So, well, I say that there is ground wires, but it still has to be grounded through here. Anyway, then I noticed this face is at a taper, at an angle. So if I put my gauge in there, it's going to be sitting in there crooked. Okay, so I would have to do something to, make a tapered shim or something to put in between the gauge and here inside to hold this straight and everything. It just got to be too much of a nightmare, and I thought, really, this gauge works perfectly fine. It's a brand new gauge. So I decided I'm not going to go through that hassle right now. I watched another guy on YouTube, and he actually bought the whole assembly out of a later model C3 and put in his car. But it's funny, while we were talking here, and I never noticed it before, but evidently the battery gauge has been replaced at some point, because it has the white face on it, and you can definitely see, I don't know if it's showing up in the camera, but you can see that's white numbers and stripes, and this is, of course, the green like it's supposed to be. So I never noticed that before, so I guess it didn't stand out as much as I thought. But now that I've seen that, it kind of bugs me. I think someday I'm going to have to buy the right one. I don't like that. Anyway, so that part's done already, so that's easy. Now the next thing I want to do is I bought a new speedometer to replace this speedometer. The speedometer works fine. It's off about 3 miles an hour. If you're running 45, you're actually running about 48, which I wasn't worried about that, but the odometer doesn't work. And when I had this apart originally, when I first got the car, I had all this apart and out and cleaned all the gauges up and everything. And I discovered there's a worm gear in there that's stripped out. And I don't know, maybe they are available out there somewhere, but I couldn't find any, so I just put it back together for the time being. But that always bugged me. I wanted the odometer to work, so I kind of gauged my mileage and stuff like that on fuel and stuff. So while I had it down this time, I decided to buy a new gauge. And of course, you can see it's all brand new. It comes with a new cable retaining clip and all that. And it's set. It shows 2 miles on it. Now this car shows 89,000 something, which I'm sure is not original or accurate mileage, because again, the odometer gear stripped out. So God only knows how long it's been driven. It might be 289,000. I don't know. So originally I was going to take this all apart and set this to 89,000 miles, And I thought, well, really, there's no point in it because I don't know if that's accurate mileage anyway. And plus, when you get these apart, there's little thin plastic strips. I don't know if you can see it in there. Actually, it looks like they might have replaced them with metal on this aftermarket one. This piece here, in the factory, they put these little thin plastic strips that keep these tumblers calibrated and in line with each other. And they did that because back, in the 70s and 60s, people, especially dealers, somebody selling their car, they could reach underneath the dash and poke in this and change the mileage. And like if it had 99,000 miles on it, they could change it back to 50,000 or something, get more money out of their car. So the manufacturers, I don't know if it was mandated by law or they did it on their own, but they made those little plastic strips. So if you poked up in there and poked it, you'd break that strip, and then these things would just freewheel, and you'd know it had been tampered with. And they're real thin. I mean, I had 77, and I took it apart to clean it, and I actually cracked one, and I had to make a new one out of plastic to replace it. So you want to be really careful of those. But like I said, this has actually a metal strip right there. Let me see. You can see right here, I got my finger on it, but it goes across, and you see those little fingers coming out from the dials, and that keeps each dial from spinning until it's supposed to. And so this one, I guess you could tamper with if you wanted to. But on these cars like this, I don't really care what the mileage is on it. It doesn't matter. So anyway, I'm going to replace my speedometer, and this has a mechanical tach. You can see it's got a connection for a speedometer cable just like this does. It's a shorter cable, and it runs to the distributor. And these tach distributor-driven ones, sometimes when you take off and you rev it up and come back down, the needle will kind of bounce a little bit until it stabilizes out, which doesn't hurt anything again. But I figured while I had it all apart, I was going to put electronic tach in here. And I ordered one back in, when is this? It's April already, and I think it was the beginning of March or the middle of February. And I checked on it a couple weeks ago, and they said it's back ordered till December. So I'm not going to wait till December to put this car back together. This tach works perfectly fine, so I'm not going to touch it. The only thing I do have to do, I have to take it out because I bought new lenses to put in the front. Okay, and over time those lenses get scratched up from cleaning and stuff, and so I got these on eBay. I don't remember what I paid for them. It wasn't very much. It was like $12 or something like that, or $10. I can't remember. But anyway, I figured while I have it all apart, I'll replace those gauges too, or those lenses. So anyway, let's get started on this. Okay, and then to take the lenses off, they're just 2 screws, I believe. Oh, 3 screws. The other one's kind of hidden down in there. I think what I did last time, I took this plate off because my socket won't fit down through there. I'm too lazy to use a wrench on it. This is your ground lug. There's one on both the speedometer and the tach, but there's still a grounding strap that goes between them too, just to make sure you got a good ground. Because if you don't have a good ground, your gauges and lights won't work right, the electric gauges anyway. Okay, so now pull that off. You can see the gauge is nice and clean. You don't want to rub the numbers and the striping at all because they will smear. I don't know what the factory made them out of, but they're not stuck really well. And this lens isn't quite as bad as my tach lens, but I think you can see it's got a layer of dust on it. You can actually see it coming off of my glove. When I had my car apart last time, I had the dash out of it. I left the gauges sitting out here on a workbench just covered with a towel, and dust got in them. And I didn't notice it till after I had it in the car. The speedometer wasn't too bad, and you can see how much you can see I rubbed the dust off of it. The tack, if you get it just right, and again, you gotta get the light just right, but you can see there's a good layer of dust on the inside of that lens. Some on the outside too, but on the inside it won't come off. So, and that just bugged the heck out of me, so that's another reason why I bought new lenses. But I'm going to be real careful now this time. When I get it done, I'm going to put them in the car. They've got a gasket on them to seal them, but I don't think it seals very well. Not like you think it would. Kind of held in place with pins, and it does seal all the way around, but I don't think this thing, the shape of this bezel actually fits real accurately to that molded plastic piece. But, okay. I'm going to be real careful with this. I'm trying not to touch the face of it. I just want to touch around the edges if I can. Over that. And I probably shouldn't be sitting on plastic. That might create static electricity, make dirt stick to it. But I'm going to take a microfiber cloth and just make sure there's nothing, you know, like dust stuck to the surface that will show up after I get it put in there. And I don't want to rub real hard. I don't want to scratch it. I shouldn't be doing that dry. Okay, and that goes in just like that. And again, you want to look it over real good, make sure there's no spots of dust, especially on the inside. The outside is not quite so bad. You can always wipe it, but you don't want it on the inside. Whew. Thought that was on the outside. A little speck of something was on the inside, and that would have really looked bad if I put that together with that on there. Okay, and then your bezel goes back on like that. I think I have a bulb in there somewhere. I'm going to take that back off once I'm going to put the bezel back together so I don't get any dirt in there. And then I'm going to take the back off that gauge. But anyway, that's how you do it. And the tack is basically the same way. And then you just put them back in the dash pad or dash. And there you have it. Looks like a brand new gauge, doesn't it? Okay. Oh, I do have to take the back off anyway. I almost forgot. I do have a brand new gauge to put in it. So that'll be the next step. I take these screws out and let's do that. We can put the new gauge in. Three screws that hold this in place, and it should have come right out then. Comes right out like that. And again, that's exposed right now, so I kind of wanted to show you the difference between the old lens and the new lens. You can definitely see a difference there, even in the camera. The old lens is pretty scratched up and dirty. The new lens looks really nice, so I'm hoping that makes a big difference. So anyway, we'll get it put in now. I don't want to get any dirt in there, so I'm going to throw a towel over that. Hopefully that'll kind of keep any dust from getting in that while we're working on this speedometer. Oh, there's my bulb. I'll have to pull that out when there's two screws that hold this in. They go into the rubber mounted. And you can see the retaining clip right there. It goes on the speedometer before you put it in, so you'll make sure you do that, because once you put it on, if you forget that, you got to take it all back apart again. So make sure you don't forget to do that. Okay, and you can see the inside of the gauge assembly. The odometer reset cable, it's screwed into this, and it just slips out just like it would on a speedometer cable, so you don't have to unhook it from this housing. Okay, and there's the old speedometer. You can see that plastic piece right there, I think. This white, see how thin it is, that little thin strip of white plastic right there? That's what I'm talking about. When those break, then those fingers just spin free. And the gear that's stripped out, I think it's back up in here. You can't see it. I'd have to take the whole thing apart. But anyway, that's the old one. And that's the new one. So we'll put that one back in. Make sure you put that on it. And this gauge actually comes with new screws. And of course, they're metric. And they got the new rubber bushings. That's nice. Looks like it's a peel and stick kind of thing. And that's got a little notch in it, and there's a little tab on the speedometer. Actually, before I put that on, let me pop these out. There's the old rubber bushings. No, they don't really press in, so I'll leave those out. So, let's do this again. Kind of getting off camera there, aren't I? Okay. So you want to make sure you got that notch, and there's a tab on there, so that goes like that. And then you just slip it back in. That's kind of weird. Looks like the sticky side would go out. So I have to go like that. Maybe this helps hold that on, but it's not sticky on both sides. I don't like that. The little foam is cut at an angle to clear the bolt holes. Oh, help if I put it on there the right direction, wouldn't it? No wonder it wouldn't go on there. Okay, it looks like I'm going to have to take this out because it's not letting me push it down on there. I'll have to put this in after it's all together. Try this one more time. And there's little pins on the front here to line up with these. Make sure you get it on that. And down here. Like that. Okay. Put the new pieces in. And there you go. It's ready to go back in the car. When you're putting this ground lug back on, what I like to do is, this is metal against metal, and there's no coating on this at all. They left it raw metal so that it would ground good, because all the bulbs have to ground off that face. So I like to put just a little bit of dielectric grease. You don't need a whole lot, just a little bit. You know, dielectric grease, just a little bit where those two plates are going to come together. Kind of help maybe keep that from rusting and losing ground. Like that. It doesn't take much. You don't want to put too much on there and it's actually affect your ground. So and you can see Chevy was really good about marking things. You can see each one of these marked with a color wire light that would go in there. The gray are always usually the instrument lights, so it doesn't matter where you hook them in. You got to watch. There's different length wires on the loom to reach to different holes, so you make sure you get the right one to the right hole. And then like this one says light green. Okay, that I believe is your that's your brights. For your bright lights, when you have your brights on, lights up. And this is left blue, or light blue, I'm sorry. That's for your, that'd be your left turn signal, the little arrow at the bottom. Otherwise, everything else is gray on as far as wiring's going in the back of the speedometer. And the tack is basically the same way. You can see it's got the gray in the four corners for the instrument lights, and then at the top here you got it's a pink and tan wire going into it, and that's for your emergency brake. If you put your emergency brake on, it lights up. And then down here, of course, is your right turn signal, and it's a dark blue. So it's pretty easy to hook up. I mean, these brackets on the bottom, they even got that one marked tack and the other one marked Speedo, so there's no way to get those reversed. So that's pretty much it, how it goes together. And there's the finished product. Doesn't look too bad. Speedometer looks factory, the tack is factory, so it's ready to go back in the car. That'll be the next step.